Rangers fans, welcome to Liberty Blue, the essential New York Rangers podcast. I'm Andrew Chelney alongside Nick Zararis. And Nick, they played better against LA. They got the win. They look good. Johnathan Quick, first win against his former team. He looked really good.
He joins the list. It's 8 goalies who have at least, I think it's 300 career wins to beat their former team in their first start. It doesn't happen that often that somebody this good goes somewhere else and finds enough success where they can win against their former team. I know Quick kind of dominated a lot of the narratives coming out of the game yesterday. He played really well. I found a lot of the conversation very interesting because I know one of the things I read was that Quick was intending on signing one more one-year deal with LA after last year and retiring before the deadline. That's what he said on the record was, I figured my contract would run out. I would play one more year and I would retire. And he was very caught off guard by what happened in Columbus. What happened in LA sending him to Columbus. And then eventually, he did. It's not like he got exiled to Columbus. I mean, he did get to win another Stanley Cup playing a cameo role. Like, how Alec Baldwin's in 3 Minutes of The Departed and somehow that's in his reel. Like Johnathan Quick was technically on the Vegas Golden Knights last year. I want to say he made 11 or 12 starts at playoffs and regular season combined. But, if he had retired after last season, nobody would have really batted an eye. And we were both very skeptical of this signing at the time, based on his track record, how he played last year, the last couple of years, frankly. He had shown a statistical decline each of the last 3 years. And frankly, this has come out of nowhere, the way he's played this year. This is not something that, it's not like the Rangers are playing great defense in front of him and his workload isn't that hard. So he's kind of cheesing the stats like some goalies on some other teams. He's just playing really well. I mean, I want to say he stole at least 2 goals last night. I mean, he had the one breakaway glove save and he had the other one, the jam play at the net front. He had a good 2 or 3 plays last night that were just tremendous.
He just continues to laugh at us both because I would have to imagine that most Rangers fans, if you weren't, involved in the narrative that was Johnathan Quick as the American-born 3-time Stanley Cup champion coming to the Rangers and, teaching Shesterkin how to be a goalie in the league, which he's already done, but that's beside the point. Like, if you weren't caught up in the narratives and you were to just take a look at his track record, you would think, okay, well, what do they see in him? Because, and we were worried about it, coming into the season of this is a goalie who's past his prime. His numbers haven't looked good. Him in preseason, just watching the way that he was kind of swimming out there.
He had an 800 save percentage.
He was
in the
bad.
Preseason. He was awful.
He was really bad. So much so that when we had Sam Rosen on the show, we asked if Dylan Garand could fill in the backup role. That's how concerned we were about Johnathan Quick. And to his credit, and to Benoit Allaire, the voodoo magician himself, they figured it out, and he's looked really good the entire way. And even in the shootout loss against Minnesota, I mean, the entire season, from the regular season on, he's looked like a completely different person. It's been incredible to watch. And I don't want to hold my breath. Like, I don't want to put this expectation of, okay, well, Quick is going to be this good the rest of the season. I'm not worried about it. I continue to be worried because of the track record leading up to the season. Hopefully this continues. Hopefully he dominates
I'm not worried.
The rest
Andrew,
of the way.
At this point, the way you got to look at it, coming into the season, we were saying he'd have to make something between 20 and 25 starts, roughly.
Yeah.
He's already got 10 wins. If he can win 4 more games in the next 10 starts he has to make over the next, 55-ish games they have to play, he's done his job. If your backup goalie wins 12 to 15 games, your backup goalie's done your job. So as far as being worried, I wouldn't say I'm worried. I definitely think they are due for some regression. And that would be my point at the first point I really wanted to hammer, because you were talking about it, the Ottawa game, the Washington game, where the scoreboards were ugly. The Ottawa game in particular, they kind of got bullied a little bit, especially around the net front. I know Brady Tkachuk's one of the premier physical players in our league, but at some point, you would think, hey, if I'm going to have to go to the net front and battle, I might as well try and make a play as opposed to just letting the other guy bully me around. Like, if I'm going to get cross-checked in the back, maybe I'll cross-check him back. Maybe we both get penalties, but at least try and engage with somebody. I know Brady Tkachuk's a good hockey player, but that game, the Washington game, that's the other end of the pendulum. We were talking a lot the first month or so, even last last week's episode, we were talking about the fact that even though the underlying results aren't incredible, the special teams have been there and they have played just well enough at 5-on-5 that everything's kind of worked for them. Last week is the inverse. That's water finding its level. I said it last week. The Rangers were not 18-4-1 good the way they had played. No team is that good, generally speaking. You get bounces, you get good momentum, and that starts to carry over game to game. All that stuff is true. But for the most part, you're going to have rough patches come back around. The game against Washington, I felt that was just a bad luck game. I mean, they had the 2 posts in the second. They had Washington scored 40 seconds into the game on a weird odd man play where a puck took a weird carom. Like, that's the worst case scenario. I read somebody's column today, and I want to say it was Adam Gretz at Hockey Prospectus, wrote something to the effect of the Rangers have a really, really, really high ceiling. And that's kind of what you and I have been reiterating over and over again, that just because they're playing well doesn't mean they can't get better. Right now, they are piecing it together. They are missing 2 top 6 forwards. They are playing Johnny Brodzinski and Tyler Pitlick a lot more than they ever planned on playing either of those guys. The fact that they are getting meaningful contributions from Johnny Brodzinski is nothing short of a miracle. This is a 30-year-old who's been a career AHLer, somebody with less than 100 games at the NHL level. This is a minor miracle that they are getting real production from him, and to the point that he deserves to stay, frankly. That there's a real argument that whenever Hedl or Kakko is available, that Pitlick should be the one that comes out and Brodzinski stays in.
And I want to highlight the power play goal he scored against LA because it wasn't an easy play.
No.
And Joe on the broadcast mentioned it when it happened, when Brodzinski was on the kind of the near the circle, expecting that cross ice pass, and the puck kind of went near the corner. Instead of staying on that side of the ice, he moved, but he moved not so quick because Trevor Lewis was on him. He moved not quickly enough such that Trevor Lewis kind of reacted to his movement, but he kind of slid a little bit, and then he went to give like that little bit of space in between him and Trevor Lewis. He got the puck, he got the pass, he shot it before Phoenix Copley had a chance of seeing it or stopping it, and it went in the net. It's a really good play, and it's a smart play, and that's the kind of play where Brodzinski is the 14th forward, the 15th forward. When you have your 15th forward making smart plays like that on the power play, it is nothing short of like you said, a miracle, but also just a luxury. What other 15th forward in the NHL is going to make that kind of play? And, it's not the 10,000 IQ play of, looking 8 steps ahead and all these things, but it's still a play that takes a lot of smarts to make. Not everybody can make that kind of play. So the fact that your 15th forward can and is capable of making that decision on the fly is just a sheer luxury.
The way I imagined it in my head was when Brodzinski looked down the bench and realized Zibanejad was in the box and Laviolette tapped him, he did the Drewski pointing at himself meme. Me? You want me on the first power play? You want me to be in the one-timer spot? That's the thing that's been so exciting about this group, is that they keep getting contributions from guys you don't expect. I mean, yesterday, Brodzinski, Vesey, and Will Cooley. I mean, coming into the season, if you told me Will Cooley was going to give them 9 or 10 goals, I would have been great. If he gives you 10 goals playing third line left wing as a rookie with no power play time, you would sign up for that 100 times out of 100. I think he's on pace for 14 or 15, something along those lines, which, for a rookie not getting power play time, that's nothing to sneeze at in the slightest.
In
Jimmy
bottom
Vesey,
6 minutes.
Yeah, and bottom 6 minutes where you're only getting, 12 minutes-ish a game. That's not easy to score that many goals at 5-on-5. Same thing with Jimmy Vesey, who's up to 6 goals on the year. Jimmy Vesey, I want to say, had 11 last year, 8 last year. I'm pulling it up as we talk, but not somebody known for his goal scoring, but he's continuing to find ways. And we talked about this. I vividly remember, he had 11 last year. I vividly remember talking about this going into the playoffs, that Vesey, Mott, and Gaudreau were the one line the Rangers had that would just take the puck to the net. None of them are great finishers. None of them have great hands, but they would go to the net, They sweep at the puck with like their stick is a broom, just trying to jam it in the net. And that has been there for Jimmy Vesey this year. He has continued to go to the net. He has shown a willingness to take contact, not be afraid to get hit around the net. And they need that type of play from their bottom six because they just aren't getting a ton of scoring from other places. So even if those guys, Gaudreau, Vesey, Pitlick, Brodzinski, whenever guys start coming back, whoever's on that fourth line, it's not that your job is to score goals, but your job is to slow the game down and have the puck in the other end of the ice. If the puck is consistently below the goal line, you are engaging in the corners, you are slowing the game down, you're buying your defense time to, catch their breath and get situated, and then you can get your forecheck going. And it all plays into what we've seen so far, where it hasn't been, their super, aside from Panarin, it hasn't been one person doing everything. It has really been a team effort, where I know there's been a little bit of Adam Fox discourse. I know he's not putting up the counting stats as much as he has in years past, but the underlying results are still there. He's still their most important non-Shesterkin player as far as team result. But the idea that I am excited about, and I still keep hammering home, is they are playing probably like a B- of what they possibly could be playing. And that's, got them with the best record in the league. If there's, this much improvement, that much improvement, you drop another forward into this group, you get Hedl back, you get Kakko back eventually. You're talking about a group that maybe not as talented as some of the teams they're going to come up against, whether it be Dallas, Toronto, Colorado, Vegas, etc., but have the ability to play with those teams. That's what's exciting.
It's very cliche for me to say this, but Will Cooley's a 16-game player. That he
hasn't played a 16-game play schedule yet. You can't say that.
Okay, but he looks like one, and that's the kind of thing.
He's got the toolbox, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Obviously, we haven't seen him in that kind of environment, but he reminds me of that kind of player that other Stanley Cup, either championship teams or close to Stanley Cup teams, have had throughout their roster, of guys that can show up in the exact moment that they're needed and produce exactly what you need them to do. For some reason, to me, that like Will Cooley seems like that kind of guy that's going to be really important for the Rangers when they need it come April. He seems like a guy that is never afraid of doing what's needed of him. When Laviolette taps him on the shoulder and says, go out there in a very high pressure environment, Will Cooley just kind of seems like somebody that not only can manage it, but is going to do exactly what's needed. Obviously, it's December 11th and April is 4 months away, and we haven't seen Will Cooley in a playoff game, and et cetera, but he looks like he has the skills, both physically and mentally, to be able to prepare for that. And going back to Johnny Brodzinski for a second, I know after the game, he said he's going to owe Mika Zibanejad a steak dinner because he took his spot and he scored a goal. So again, like, you have these periphery guys that are contributing. Jimmy Vesey's looked really good. I don't know what has happened between like the first couple of weeks of the season where Jimmy Vesey didn't do a whole lot, and now he's doing what he's doing. Like, it's great to see, and the Rangers really need that depth scoring, and right now they're getting it, and it's propelling them to wins.
Absolutely. And to your point about Will Cooley, I think what makes him in your mind stand out to be that type of player is it's the toolbox. It's the willingness to engage on the forecheck, especially. The Rangers do not have particularly good forecheckers. I'd argue that might be the single biggest weakness they have of their forward group. They have a ton of talent, but none of those guys are great at winning loose pucks. None of those guys are particularly good at winning foot races and engaging below the boards, below the goal line, the types of plays that you need to string together to really put pressure on the other team's defense. He's really good at that, and he's really good at going to the net front. He's big enough where if he gets to the net front, he can take a bump or two and still stay in that net front area. And frankly, he's been pretty good in transition. I know generally a lot of the season he's had Blake Wheeler, he's had different players alongside him, not necessarily the most fleet of foot, but he's managed to make it work for them in transition. Speaking of transition, I know that was a subject of conversation going into the Ottawa game, because I know Valiquette had done a thread either that day or the day before about how the Rangers concede the most rush opportunities, but not the most rush chance opportunities. And then against Ottawa, they gave up, I want to say 3 of the 5 goals came off of odd man rushes.
Real quick here before you go on, Johnny Brodzinski and Blake Wheeler, by the way, have the same amount of points. I just want to point that out for those that are listening at home and watching at home. Blake Wheeler has 6 points in 26 games. Johnny Brodzinski has 6 in 7 games. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, there are things to poke in that. I digress. There's no.
Listen,
we don't need to beat up on Andrew. We don't need to beat up on Blake Wheeler. We don't need to beat up on Blake Wheeler.
I'm just saying what's on the stat sheet, Nick.
He's the 9th or 10th best forward on the team. If that's the biggest issue you have, they're in decent shape. There's no need to beat up on Blake Wheeler.
I'm just reading the stat sheet, Nick. Listen, I'm not calling anybody out. I'm just saying it. I'm just reading what's in front of me.
Okay. One thing I did want to talk about, because you brought this up last week, and I know there's been a lot of conjecture about the defense, because they have been conceding more goals than they did the first couple of weeks of the season. I know a lot of people expected once Adam Fox got back that, the defense would be okay, even without Hedl, even without Kakko. But the one point I want to hammer home here is the Rangers' best line all year at 5-on-5 has been Lafreniere, Panarin, and whoever's in the middle of them, whether that be Trocheck now or Hedl before Hedl got injured. The one problem with that is they are not good defensively. That trio is not good defensively, and that is okay. You are willing to make that trade-off because they are so good offensively that they are not good. That even if they do whatever they do concede, you're willing to make that concession because they generate more offense than they concede. The issue for them at 5-on-5 is the first line does not drive play in the slightest. They are below 50% in all of the major categories, aside from actual goals scored, but I have some stats on that I want to talk about. And then the third line, the fourth line, whatever you get, you're treading water. We know they're down to 14th, 15th forward. I'm not as caught up on those guys. So I know there's been a lot of, Kakko wasn't putting up points while he was here anyway. I know Valiquette had he's only assisted on 8 high danger passes all year tweet, but Valiquette suddenly didn't have those magic stats when he wanted Patrick Kane on the team last year. But I digress. The stats are great, but only when you use them to support your narrative is when I kind of, that frustrates me as somebody who's in the stat trenches every day. So with Kakko, Zibanejad, and Kreider, 52% of the scoring chances, 66% of the goals, 58% of the expected goals, 64% of the high danger chances, on ice shooting percentage 4%. In the 3 weeks since Kakko got hurt, 160 minutes of ice time, 48% scoring chance, 52% of the goals, 46% of the expected goals, 46% of the high danger chances, on ice shooting percentage 10%. The reason the Rangers are not as good defensively is because they are missing important players who drive offense. It's not necessarily that Kakko is an amazing play driver, but he helps them because he is good defensively. When he is out there with Zibanejad and Kreider, I know a lot of people will say, well, he's not putting the puck in the net. He's not getting the puck to dangerous areas. I agree with you. You would like more of that in his game, but he is effective enough defensively that he is creating more offense by simply not being on defense. That is something they are missing right now. The last 2-3 weeks, they have been playing more defense than they were the first few weeks of the season. You and I were hammering it that first month where the Rangers hadn't been a positive possession team since 2015. The Rangers for a full season have not been a positive expected goals team in almost a decade now. Almost a full decade that hadn't happened, and that's why we were so encouraged. They were playing less defense, and that was giving them more offense. Now that they're not driving play as much offensively, they're having to play more defense. That's why the goaltending hasn't looked as good, because they're asking it to do more. I know there's a lot I'm throwing out at you right now, but the big point here is you can create more offense by just playing less defense. And without guys like Kakko, without guys like Hedl, you are asking guys to do more. You are asking Blake Wheeler to do more. You are asking Johnny Brodzinski, who has been good, to do more. You are asking guys like Tyler Pitlick, who you probably planned on being your occasional guy to come in if someone is hurt. So it's not that they can't win playing this way. It's just a lot harder to win this way.
I hate the discourse around Kaapo Kakko. I hate the discourse.
Me too.
Everybody just constantly says he's a bust because he's a second overall player and he doesn't put up the points. I hate that conversation because that in and of itself doesn't describe what Kakko actually does on the ice. If he was doing cardio, that would be one thing. If he was Brett Howden on the Rangers, where he literally just skated and then went home, we would be a lot more, concerned about Kaapo Kakko. But the way that he plays makes everybody on the ice better. And that's a rare skill to have. Whether you put the counting stats up or not, if you are on the ice and therefore you being on the ice makes everybody on your team better, that is rare. And that's a tough skill to acquire, to work on, to get better at. Cop, he might not put up 20, 30 goals, but he's really good defensively, and by extension makes the rest of his line and his defenseman and his goalie need to do less, so they can focus on what they're best at and leave everything else to Kakko, and that's been his bread and butter for the past little bit. So yeah, he might, I think he has like two goals and 1 assist or whatever in 20 games, but he has so much value that doesn't end up on the score sheet that people that don't actually watch the games will look and say, oh, of course, Kaapo Kakko hasn't scored a goal again. Oh, he's a bust. But that's just not true in any sense of the word. Kaapo Kakko provides a lot of value for this team, and they are missing him now that he's injured.
So one thing I did want to emphasize, of his draft class, second most games, only person who's played more, Jack Hughes. Points, he's 7th of everybody in his draft class. And then this is specific to the Rangers, in terms of time on ice in his years. Rookie year, 9th most minutes, all situations, not just 5-on-5. 9th most second year, 8th most third year, 8th most last year, 6th most this year. If you want to go from being a 40-point forward to a 60-point forward, you need more ice time. It's a shame he got hurt. It's a shame they broke up that first line before he got hurt and threw Blake Wheeler up there, because it wasn't Kakko's fault they weren't scoring. And I know people will say he doesn't have as good of offensive instincts. They had the puck a lot more. I would rather have Kakko in the offensive zone than having some of the other people that they have had in those positions. I know you want more from somebody who takes second overall. I agree with you. When you are picking that high in the draft, you should be taking swings. The way I have long looked at the draft, and I really came around to this opinion, I would say in the last 3 to 4 years, it's true in football, it's true in hockey as well. If you are picking that high, if you are picking above 5th overall with 1 through 5, if you want to take a guy based on tools that you think you can get them to that next tier, as opposed to playing it safe, I am okay with that. The Rangers cannot go back in time and say, well, they should have taken this person, Dylan Cousins, whatever. There's no point in doing that. I think what people are missing is you can be an effective NHL player without putting up counting stats. Counting stats do not tell the entire story. You and I, in particular, we have talked about this a lot in regards to other players on the Rangers, whether it's Trocheck, whether it's Zibanejad, whether it's Panarin. The way you create those points, what you do when you're not scoring, what you do in transition, all of that goes into your profile. It's great that, Zibanejad's is on pace for 80 something points again. What's he doing when he doesn't have the puck? Is his defense good? Is his transition play good? That's the stuff I'm not worried about when it comes to Kakko. I think there is another tier of his game to get to, but you've also, at this point, this is probably close to what he is at this point. He's 4 or 5 years into his NHL career now, and the key development years, they're done. His key development years were 3 and 4 years ago. At this point now, if he's your Val Nichushkin dupe, if he's your Craig Smith dupe, if he's your Walmart Anthony Cirelli, if he's a defensive first forward in your top 6, you're okay with that. He's not going to be that expensive, which helps you in constructing your roster, but he is a good enough defensively and has okay enough offensive ability where if he's the second line right wing or the first line right wing and he's playing with Zibanejad or he's playing with Panarin, I wouldn't be worried about it because he does enough defensively that he's going to help those other guys by just letting them play more offense.
I totally agree. It's one of those things where you don't need 12 forwards that can only do one thing. Kaapo Kakko is really good as a defensive forward. But not only, because there are forwards in the NHL that are only good at defense and can't score to save their lives. Kaapo Kakko is not one of those players. Yeah, he's been snake bitten throughout his career, and he's hit posts, and he's missed the net, and he's done all these things. But he has the skills to put on a clinic when he so chooses. He has the ability to score goals when needed, and that's the thing that separates him from a lot of other defensive forwards in the league. He's not a fourth line right winger that is part of that defensive glue line that'll just go out there, essentially prevent goals and then just go home. He has the ability to also generate offense, and he's a valuable two-way player that a lot of people take for granted because he's not putting up counting stats that are flashy and shiny because he's a second overall pick. If he was a second rounder, nobody would be saying anything. And it's always tough in sports. You can't redraft. A player, for better or for worse, is always tied to their draft capital, which is why, guys like Henrik Lundqvist, who were 7th round draft picks, are always hailed as a diamond in the rough. And these guys that no one expected to be great, and they had the Hall of Fame careers like Nick Lidstrom and Pavel Datsyuk and all these guys. It's like, yes, but just because you're a second overall pick and you might not get the counting stats doesn't mean that you're a bust. He's just excelling at other things. That's it.
The way I think about Kakko, it would have been very easy for him to just entirely flop after the way his rookie season went, because he was objectively one of, if not the worst players in the entire NHL his rookie season. He was not ready for the NHL. The Rangers didn't care. They wanted him over here. They said, we'd rather you be bad on our team than play in Sweden, play over in Europe, because he wasn't AHL eligible. They couldn't send him back to the AHL 2 years after playing. In an ideal world, he should have stayed in Europe till at least 2021, more than likely. He probably shouldn't have played here in his draft year, and he probably shouldn't have played here the 56-game season either. And then it's an entirely different conversation. But enough about Kakko. One last thing I wanted to get in here before we move on. The thing about Quick that I wanted to check is just how he's performing in relation to other goalies in his age range. Of goalies over the age of 35, since 2007, 2008, the first season we have advanced statistic data tracking, he's got the 14th most goals saved above expected out of 100-something goalies who have been at least over the age of 35 who have made a start. That is awesome. That is superb value. That is not something either of us expected to happen. And frankly, again, I know a lot of this is... It is very easy to chalk this all up to just Benoit Allaire because we don't understand what goaltending coaching is in the slightest bit. Some of this is Quick too. Right? It is very easy to just Benoit Allaire's magic. He can get good results out of anybody. I point you in the direction of Andrei Pavlik, who played 1 year in New York and then retired. It is not just Benoit Allaire being good at his job. There was something in there to get Quick going. Some of it's mental. There's a real argument that coming to a new environment where he was wanted reinvigorated him to some degree. And I know that's not something you can, quantify or put a value on, but coming home, coming to play for a team he cares about, and just frankly, after the way last year went, where he thought he was going to ride off into the sunset on a Kings team that was good, but not great, and then got cast aside so they could trade for Jonas Korpisalo for like 20 games. A very weird way to end things. And sometimes it does take a change of scenery to reinvigorate a guy late in his career. So it's curious because, you think about a guy, a hip surgery, a knee surgery over the age of 30, 4 or 5 year statistical decline. And just to play at this level, stuff like that just doesn't happen. Like there is nothing in anything, not the data, not other players with similar career trajectories that would lead you to believe that this was feasible, let alone actually doable.
I think we're undervaluing the power of wanting revenge.
Spite is powerful.
I think that is playing a role. I think if in terms of Benoit Allaire, it's a two-way street. Because Benoit can do everything in his power to get the best out of you, but you also have to want it. Like I would imagine that if you're in the NHL, everybody wants it, but everybody wants it differently. With Johnathan Quick, maybe it's literally just the power of revenge that is just driving him to be elite again. I don't know. Maybe it is. And if it is, all the more power to him. please continue to do this. Like, it's great. It's great that the backup goalie for the New York Rangers, a guy that we, wrote off before the season started, given how he was playing prior to coming here, is playing as if he's 25 years old again. It is incredible to watch. And it's all some people are driven by the power of love and respect and all these things. That Johnathan Quick is solely fueled by his seething rage against his former team, and I, for one, am here for it.
All right, Andrew, it's time to play Guess Who.
All right.
Drafted by Tampa Bay.
Okay.
Rangers, Ottawa, Colorado, Detroit, Dallas, back to Tampa to Winnipeg.
He's on Winnipeg now.
Correct.
Oh, God. Drafted by Tampa Bay. Went back to Tampa. See, the thing about it is I need to look up Winnipeg's roster. Because I don't think I remember.
That's cheating, my friend. You can't look up
the
the roster and pick and scratch.
Okay. Defenseman?
No, forward.
Forward. What was the draft year?
I couldn't tell you the draft year off the top of my head. He was in Tampa Bay for 4 or 5 years, then New York, traded to Ottawa, Colorado, Detroit, Dallas, Tampa, and he's back. He's been in Winnipeg 2 years now.
Oh, Vladimir Mesnikov.
There you go. See, you always doubt yourself, but you get it within 3 guesses.
Well, because it's like this guy played for half the league, and I needed a refresher on Winnipeg's roster. So I'm like thinking to myself, who could this possibly be? I don't know, half of the roster. I need a refresher, and then his name just appears.
Okay, this next one is something I saw basketball guys doing for the 2002 New Jersey Nets. So I'm going to ask you, can you name the starting lineup from Game 1 of the 2014 Stanley Cup Final for the New York Rangers? You don't need to do lines and pairs. Just if you get the name right, Stepan.
Stepan, Girardi, McDonough, Lundqvist, Zuccarello, and Kreider.
Oh, I meant the whole lineup, my guy.
Oh, the whole team. Oh, I thought you meant the starting. I thought you meant like the starting lineup.
No.
Okay. Kevin Kline, Mark Stahl, Benoit Pouliot.
Yep. You're missing the entire second line. You're missing the third defensive pair. The one guy on the third defensive pair, but you've got most of it. Oh, and you need to get the entire fourth line, but you're getting there.
Okay, Derek Dorsett.
Yes.
Danny Carcillo for some reason.
No.
He was good. He was good.
He was not in the opening he was not in the Game 1 lineup, Daniel.
He was not in the Game 1 lineup. Okay. But Dorsett was.
Correct.
Was Del Zotto still here? No, right? No, Del Zotto was gone. I'm like totally blanking on these people. I think Lee Stepniak was here.
No.
For that? No.
Lee Stepniak was 2015.
Okay. And then he was traded for Oscar Lindbergh for some reason. That's
correct.
Right. That trade still boggles me. Yeah, I'm totally forgetting the second line. And Derek Brassard was here for that.
Correct. You got the entire third line now.
Yeah.
You've got the entire first line. You need to get 2 guys on the fourth line, 2 guys on the third line, and 1 more defenseman.
Okay.
You're missing like the trade deadline acquisition.
Well, I mean, okay. Well, Rick Nash was here, so that's one.
You got him, yeah.
Yeah. Wait, because Marty St. Louis that year or the year after?
Correct.
Marty St. Louis was there. Okay, so that's they still need a center, and I can't for the life of me remember who the center was.
Mr. Compliance buyout himself.
Oh, Brad Richards. Okay, Brad Richards was there. Yeah. Okay.
2 more forwards, 1 defenseman. You're
2
close.
more forwards, 1 defenseman. Yeah, I can't remember.
Carl Hagelin.
Okay. Yeah.
Dominic Moore.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
And you were never going to get the other defenseman. He was in for an injury, Rafi Diaz.
The Rangers legend himself, who, by the way, was like better than half the blue line at the time, but I digress.
Rafi Diaz is one of the all-time Internet 2014 arguing lightning rods because everybody could see it just from watching him play the puck that he was better than some of the guys on the team, but he was from Switzerland, I think, so that was disqualifying.
Yeah, I am mad for Rafi Diaz. I'm so mad for him because he not only had the skills to play in the NHL, he was better than a lot of the defensemen that were ahead of him. Not just on the Rangers, but in a lot of teams that he was playing for. He deserved a longer career, and I will fight for Rafi Diaz. Like that's the hill I'm dying on today.
Okay, Andrew, this last segment is something I saw on NBA Twitter, and I think will play well here.
Okay.
You and I are going to go back and forth, and we are going to draft NHL teams, and we are going to try and pick whoever's team ends up with the Stanley Cup champion. That is our goal. We are going to go back and forth drafting teams until we hit all 32, and we're going to go quick because we know our 32 teams. So I will be courteous and give you the first pick. Who do you want?
I mean, I'll go Rangers, man. I'll do it. I'll do it.
You're dumb. Give me Dallas and Colorado.
Oh, so we're doing it like that. Okay,
Snake,
I mean, give me Boston, and give me Vegas.
Okay, I will go. This is projecting a little bit, but give me the Devils, and I will take. Okay, I'll take the Kings. Sure.
Okay, give me Vancouver.
Okay,
and give me Toronto. Screw it. Give me Toronto.
Okay, I'll take Florida and Carolina. Okay. Don't feel good about Carolina, but we're getting into that middle tier now.
Yeah, dude. Give me Edmonton.
Okay,
that's
feasible
right there. Yeah, I mean, no other team is like really giving me big old Stanley Cup. Give me Tampa, I guess. I'll take them.
Okay, so Tampa, I will take then. Give me. I was gonna say the Sharks just to make you laugh, but
okay. I mean, if you want to throw your pick away, you can. No one's stopping you.
I'll take the Wild just on the premise that a new coach maybe gets them a little more juice, and I will also take. I'll take Detroit. Why not?
Okay. Give me Arizona and give me Calgary.
Okay, now we're getting into the nasty business.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think either of us have taken Detroit yet, which is interesting.
I just took Detroit.
Did you? Okay. Yeah.
I just took Detroit. Don't worry. I'll take Detroit, Seattle. I'll take Seattle, and you know what? We'll have fun. I'll take the Flyers.
Okay. Give me the Caps, I guess. I guess
that's where this is fun. Like somebody had to take the Pistons in that draft.
Well, someone's taking the Sharks, and it ain't gonna be me. I'll tell you that right now. I give me the Caps, and I guess give me the Penguins. I don't know.
Okay. All right. So if we're at that point, I'll take the Islanders, and I will take. You know what? I enjoy it. Yeah, I'll take St. Louis. Sure.
Okay. I'll take Nashville.
Okay.
And I will take give me Montreal. Montreal's fun.
Now we're getting silly. Now we're having fun. I will take Ottawa, Buffalo. Oh God, this is nasty.
It's not looking good, is it?
Yeah. I'll take Ottawa, and I guess I'll take. Yeah, I'll take Ottawa and Buffalo. Sure.
Okay, I'll take Anaheim, and I'll take Columbus.
Okay. So that leaves me with San Jose and
Chicago.
Yes. Okay. So
I wasn't taking San Jose. That was going to be a Nick Zararis production.
That's fine with me. I got Martin Jones. No, I don't have Martin Jones. No. I have Mackenzie Blackwood. There we go. Sure. I'm fine.
Martin Jones has not been in San Jose for a very long time.
He's where? Seattle? Philly?
He's a third string goalie for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
That's right. I forgot about that. I saw somebody making a joke about that the other day. All right.
Yeah.
The schedule is getting interesting here now. The next week or so, they got some decent competition, and we'll wrap up on that. They got Toronto tomorrow, the Ducks, who have come back down to earth after a good first month, and then the Bruins on Saturday. And then by the time we see you guys next, that will be the 3 games they have played. They're a little dinged up. Toronto is also very dinged up. Toronto might have me or Andrew playing goalie tomorrow.
Toronto's a strange team, dude.
They're really hurt. I mean, they're down, 3 defensemen, a goalie. Toronto's in a really weird spot. Anaheim is kind of regressed back to what people expected them to be. And the Bruins are kind of just chugging along the same way the Rangers are. So that'll be a good measuring stick comeback. I know they're playing in Boston this time, unlike the first time where the Bruins played here. I know, generally speaking, we want to get 60% of our available standings points. Try not to overreact to any one game. I'm sure that is unavoidable. I know I've seen my fair share of mind-numbing takes in the last week. I saw more than one person seriously arguing that Quick should get more of the starts until Shesterkin starts playing better, which is wholly unserious. But
right, I think I know who you're talking about as well.
Yeah, that person is not serious, but somehow ends up being in a lot of conversation. That'll do it for this week's episode of the Liberty Blue Podcast. We will be back next week, 6:00. Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcast, over on YouTube as well. We'll see you guys then.
Later.